Hello there, people, and welcome to Friday Flight. My name is Ray. Thank you so much for joining me for what is a semi-newish show that I'm doing on Fridays, truthfully, and quite honestly is what Flight Chat may end up evolving into, if you will. For those of you who have never been a member of patreon.com/theflightcast, if you've never been a flight officer there, I will let you know what this is. This isn't necessarily a new show. It's a show that I had been doing here and there for the last year or so on Patreon. It was a Patreon exclusive, and what it was on Fridays, what would happen is I'd get to the weekend, and usually I do like flight reviews and, you know, the feedback episodes, flight chat and whatnot over the weekend. But before that, I would do a Patreon show where I would just get all my thoughts out. But there was a special twist to this particular show, Friday Flight, because I'm a beer snob. And flight, of course, for people who don't know, FLITE, means to engage in sharp debate. That's literally the origin of my blog, the origin of my podcast, and all of that. But if you are also a connoisseur of beer, then you also know what a flight is with respect to beer. When you go to a brewery and they give you a flight, which is several different beers, several different smaller versions of beers for you to try, you know, and see what it is that you like. And so I adopted the idea of every time I did an episode, most of the time, I would try a new beer. Because, like I said, I'm a beer snob, and living in Michigan, there's more than a few breweries to choose from with respect to different beers that you can try out. And there's a lot that I've tried, a lot that I enjoy, and a lot that I haven't tried that I don't know that I enjoy yet. So, for the purposes of this episode, I have a brand new one that I'm trying out here. It's from New Holland Brewing Company, and it's called Tangerine Space Machine. It's considered a hazy IPA. Which is interesting because I'm not real big on IPAs, truthfully. Historically speaking, I don't care for IPAs a whole lot. I'm more of a lager individual, if you will. But I want to try this one. It's a brand new one that I haven't tried before. Let's see. It's canned. I normally don't do canned. Normally I do. I'm draft first, glass second, if you will. But I usually do not do. This is how much of a snob I am with respect to beer. I usually don't do aluminum cans or whatnot. But let's try this one out here. Wanted to make sure we got the actual. I don't know if you heard that. Hopefully you did. This thing, I set this mic. It like filters out background sound and focuses on vocals. Hopefully you heard that. But here, let's take a taste. All right. Oh, I do like that. It's got a bit of a kick to it. It's citrusy. It's definitely citrusy. I mean, you can get that from the actual, like, the description, Tangerine Space Machine. What does the website actually say about this? What's the info on this one? Because we have a place up here called Trader Joe's. I don't know, any of you live in this area. I don't know if Trader Joe's is nationwide or whatever. I think it is. I'm not sure where it's at, but you can go in there. They've got like all these different types of beer, all these different breweries, and you can do like the 6-pack where you can try singles. That's what I did. I got a 6-pack of singles, and this was one that I got. So I didn't really look at a ton of the information on this. What has it got here? It says on the New Holland Brewing Company website, it says that it was launched into orbit in 2018 and has quickly become the flagship IPA for New Holland. The refreshing burst of tangerine partnered with the tropical fruit notes from Galaxy and Citra hops make Tangerine Space Machine a great drinking experience for both the aficionado and the craft beer newcomer. Available year-round, 6.8% alcohol by volume. All right. Not bad, New Holland Brewing Company. Not bad. So that's what I'm drinking as I talk about the nerdy stuff that I want to talk about in this particular episode. It's different than the main show that I'm doing on Mondays now. But I specifically wanted to talk about, and I'd mentioned this on social media, on I think, Threads and BLUESKY. I'd mentioned that, well, Threads for sure, that this particular show, I want to talk about the fact that I'm back on Threads and like my social media exploits, if you will, because I've changed a few things with respect to my social media philosophy. But of course, before diving into that, reminding everybody, whether you are a longtime subscriber or you're somebody that has just now discovered the Flightcast, thank you so much for discovering my podcast network, if you will. You can find this show and all of my other shows that I do at theflightcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. It's available on Apple Podcasts. It's available on the Flightcast YouTube channel. It's available on Spotify. It's available on Pandora. Just look up the Flightcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you use Overcast or any other podcatcher apps, you can find it there as well. Also want to take a moment to thank the aforementioned patrons of patreon.com/theflightcast. Don't worry, there's still plenty of Patreon exclusive stuff, exclusive episodes of Flight Speed, which is the show that I do on the way home from work, and also episodes of Flight Review. There's a big one that I've been teasing that I definitely want to do this weekend with respect to a horror movie franchise that I finally want to finish that was recommended to me based on a horror movie that I thoroughly enjoy. One of my favorite, probably my favorite horror movie of all time. And this other franchise was recommended to me because they said, well, if you like that movie, then you probably like these. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I got 3 other movies to watch before I give my full review on it. If you've been listening to the last couple of episodes of the shows that I've done, you could probably guess what franchise I'm talking about. But either way, that's going to be a Flight Review episode that will be Patreon exclusive. There's other movie reviews that I want to get into. There's also some stuff that I want to do in the not too distant future with respect to my physical media collection because I really want to talk about it. And for those of us that are fans of physical media, I think it would be an awesome thing to talk about, truthfully, in this day and age as they try to get us to stream every damn thing so that we're only renting and not owning our content anymore. But either way, patreon.com/theflightcast. You can go there to sign up to be a flight officer and get access to all the bonus content that is there. It's like nearly 200 episodes of stuff that I've posted. Can you believe that? I posted that much stuff on Patreon? I really have. There's a lot there already, including all the previous episodes of this show that were Patreon exclusive. The last one that I did an episode in October of last year where I was ranting, if you will, completely uncensored, about Variety's article with respect to Star Wars fan backlash and how unsuccessful the franchise had been. This is all in the wake of the Acolyte, if I remember correctly, and that's a real quick way to grind my gears is to tell me that the franchise that I personally believe has excelled throughout is failing because the fans hated the Acolyte or whatever. It is what it is. But those prior episodes and other rants that I've done on Friday Flight are available at patreon.com/theflightcast. So if you want to sign up, you can to be a flight officer and enjoy all that bonus content. And those of you who are subscribers, thank you so much for your support and your loyalty. Seriously, I really do appreciate all of you that continue to humble me with your support of my little fledgling podcast enterprise here. All right, so here's the deal. A couple of days ago, I reactivated my Threads account and I reactivated my Instagram account. Why did I do that? Well, first I got to go back to why I deactivated them in the first place. And I don't know if I ever explained this on my previous shows, but in the event that I didn't, I will explain it here. So this goes back to about almost 2 years ago to the actual day. It was like August of 2023 was like the month that I deactivated my Twitter. I dumped out of Twitter long before it turned into the Nazi-led hellscape that it is now. And I'm not pulling punches with respect to my description on that site. That's how I feel about it, because that's what it is in this regard. But I got rid of my Twitter account. I ditched Twitter back in that time, August of 2023, when I started seeing ads for a thing called PragerU, which is a right-wing online university. And it's a school that literally they put out all this right-wing garbage, including this video of an animation of Frederick Douglass that teaches children that slavery wasn't that bad. As soon as I saw ads for that on Twitter, I said, yep, nope, I'm out, I'm done. And I ditched it then. And I moved over to Threads because, between Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, it's like, okay, lesser of two evils, Mark Zuckerberg, right? And I already had an Instagram, was already on Facebook, so I said, all right, I'll go over there and I'll set up shop there. And I was there for a good while, right? And then the election happened back in November, and I was just angry and, frustrated, dejected, all the adjectives that I'm sure many of us still are months later. And I said, no, I'm out. I'm done. Especially when I found out that BLUESKY existed. And I knew about BLUESKY beforehand, but a lot of people were flocking to BLUESKY as a result of what was going on. And I think the biggest problem that they were having with Threads, and I'm sure it's still a problem today, is that they weren't, they don't listen to complaints, right? When people post horrible stuff, bad shit, whether it's racism, whether it's bigotry, a lot of the hateful messages, and this is the problem on Facebook as well. Meta doesn't do anything. Meta just lets that shit fly. And, they're all about algorithms, and they'll throttle your stuff and they'll hide your posts and do all that stuff. So I was just done with the manipulation at that point, and Blue Sky is open source, and I figured, okay, I mean, they've got algorithms, but at least this might be a more fair medium. And I will say that it is a more fair medium so far. I've been there active over the last 3 or 4 months, as active as I could be on social media. Not quite as active as I would like because I've been, working and doing other stuff. But the issue that I have now with Blue Sky, to be honest with you, is that there's a whole lot of politics, and not politics that bother me. Not it's the type of open-mindedness and like democracy, pro-democracy stuff that I appreciate. That is definitely in my wheelhouse, but it's mostly that. There's really not a whole lot of movies, TV, and other sort of media stuff that, I mean, people are there talking about it, and some of you guys are there. Anthony, I know you're there. I think Phil, you're there. Wally, you're there. I know a number of you are there, right? I think John, you might have an account. A number of you are there, but there just isn't the conversation, right? There isn't there isn't quite the presence, if you will, with respect to anything other than politics. It is largely politics, at least from what I have seen on Blue Sky. And maybe that's because when I joined, I was heavily political at that point, and I just screwed up my algorithm from the beginning. That might be the case. That might actually be the case. But either way, like, I missed that discussion. And the other thing that kind of bugs me a little bit about Blue Sky, it's not perfect, is they don't notify you when certain other accounts post things, right? Like, one of the benefits of Twitter, before it became the Nazi hellscape that it is now, is that you could turn on notifications for a particular account, and whenever they posted something new, you would get a notification. So I could, follow Hollywood Reporter, I could follow James Gunn, I could follow Deadline, and I could follow Matt Reeves. Remember, a bunch of us turned on notifications for Matt Reeves because he would post like once every 3 months on Twitter, updates about the Batman or this or that or whatever, right? And we'd be like, oh, Matt Reeves tweeted something, here it is, right? Because we'd get the notification. We wouldn't have to rely on somebody else to let us know that it had posted in that regard. And Blue Sky doesn't have that. And that's unfortunate because they need to get that feature. And if that feature is there and I just haven't turned it on and somebody knows how to turn it on, please let me know because I haven't found it. And that is something that Twitter has. It's something that Threads has, right? And since I've rejoined Threads, like, I've gotten so many notifications from Hollywood Reporter. In fact, I'm looking at it now as of the time of me recording this, and there was some sad news. Apparently, George Foreman, a boxer, he died at the age of 76, so may he rest in peace. Definitely one of the most influential, recognizable boxers of all time. Yeah, so that's this is a notification that I got, and like Hollywood Reporter, Adam Schefter, because I follow the NFL, he's an NFL reporter for ESPN, and I haven't seen anything for James Gunn. I think I had him turned on for James Gunn, but either way, that's a feature that I would like. Because quite honestly, being on Blue Sky, it really did feel like I was out of the loop for a lot of the entertainment news and whatnot that was happening, and I would have to like search for other means in that regard. Because I'm not going back to Twitter. As long as Twitter is owned by who it is owned by, I'm not going back. That is not going to happen. There has to be a change of ownership, and there has to be a whole scale change of the user base, if you will, because I'm not, no, the place got even more toxic, and I've heard this from others it's got even more toxic than it was originally. And yeah, I don't need that noise. I'm not dealing with that. I'm absolutely not dealing with that, and especially not at this point in time because I've become such an indiscriminate blocker in that regard. Like I don't deal with noise anymore, right? I may respond once or twice, and then if it continues to go off the rails, yeah, you're done. I do not have time or patience or energy to waste. I don't have crayons to waste on people with these protracted arguments and this trolling bullshit like I used to back in the day on Twitter. Those days, done. Seriously, I'm not even joking. Seriously, done. And it's not going to happen on Threads either. I know that a lot of the assholes from Twitter have migrated to Threads as well. Oh no, blocked. In fact, there are 2 or 3 accounts that were quoted on Threads that I saw earlier today on some nonsense, right, with respect to political stuff, and without even joining into, like, I like the response, like, against them from the person that quoted it, and then I just block the person that they quoted because I'm like, no, I'm not boosting that, I'm not amplifying that, no more of that bullshit. If I can avoid it, I will, definitely. But that's one of the biggest reasons that I'm back on Threads, to be honest with you. And I know that not everybody migrated over to Blue Sky, and there are a lot of accounts and a lot of people that are good that are still on Threads. And Threads is seriously the lesser of two evils, because if we're looking at corporate ownership, for all the people that have been bending the knee to the current administration, right? To get a little social political here, whatever. There are business decisions being made, and while I don't agree with them, at the same time, it's not as destructive and it's not quite as openly bigoted as the ownership of Twitter. So that's how I look at it. And on top of that, I still have my Facebook account, and this is really where it kind of started, because I have my Facebook account and I thought about getting rid of it. I thought about shutting it down. But the reason I didn't, there's two reasons I didn't. The first reason is because I do still have friends and family that I know in real life that are active on Facebook, and I would like to stay in touch with them through the social media platform in that regard. I'm not there very often but I have a trimmed down friend. I don't friend collect, so I don't have like more than maybe a little over 200 friends and whatnot. And if people fly off the rails, whether I'm related to them or not, I will absolutely unfriend them. I do not care. I believe in protecting your peace. And, for all the people that want to claim, well, you should never unfriend somebody over politics, bullshit. If their politics are infringing upon your peace, block them. I don't care if you know them in real life. I don't care if they're your friends or family, block them. Because that's your peace. And if they're going to spout nonsense, you don't need to listen to it. You do not need to respect it. They can shout into the void all they like. And the same goes with movies, TV, and other sort of media, because we know that social political stuff intersects with all the movies and the TV stuff that we watch. I mentioned The Acolyte earlier. It definitely reared its head there. There's other stuff that goes on where like it intersects in that regard, right? What about all the people that think that Zack Snyder is this flaming conservative because he likes Ayn Rand or something like that, right? That stuff does intersect with our world. And if you don't want to bother with that noise, if you don't want to hear it, even from people that you know in real life, block them, unfriend them. Never let anybody shame you for that, because you are protecting, especially now in this day and age, you are protecting your peace. You are protecting your mental health, and we're all screwed up. All of us have mental health issues. Seriously, all of us. There's not a single person on this planet that does not have mental health issues, especially if you live in the U.S. right now. Okay? And that's not a slight on anyone. That's just that's just an observation, right? A statement of what is going on in the world that we live in today. So protect your peace and don't let anybody shame you for blocking people or for unfriending over anything political or anything social political or anything like that, right? So even with the little over 200 people that I know in real life, they're on notice. It's like, hey, listen, if you're going to espouse some nonsense, we don't need to communicate any further. There was one individual that I do know in real life that, an individual that I have crossed paths with, that I've met multiple times. And when it comes to the nerd shit, we get along, but I haven't seen him in a number of years. And he posted some stuff on Facebook that I 1000% do not agree with. He is unfriended. And if I ever see him in person again and he wants to ask why, I'll explain it to him. But I'm all about protecting my peace. And I'm not telling him he can't say whatever he wants to say. I'm just telling him I don't need to listen to it. And I'm not going to listen to it. Plain and simple. But for all the family and friends that I still have that are active on Facebook, I decided, okay, I'll keep the account. And the other reason is because you have to have a personal Facebook account in order to continue to manage any Facebook pages that you have. And I have a Facebook page for the Flightcast that has a decent amount of subscribers. I need to really post to it more often, to be honest with you, which means I need to make more content, truthfully. It's really telling me to get off my ass and be more of an active content creator, because I really, like a couple years ago, in the throes of all this stuff, when it really first started, it got a pretty big audience. Like, there were more people that followed my page on the Flightcast than even followed our Facebook page for Squadcast Media, which has always kind of surprised me at that point, right? But I didn't want to give up the page, and I didn't want to give up access to the page. So I said, all right, well, I got to keep my Facebook. I just won't be that active on it, and I'm certainly not going to entertain any bullshit from any of the people that I know, and I will unfriend if necessary, right? So I said, well, if I'm keeping that meta product, then I may as well reactivate the others and, find the good people there, right? Block the bad people, find the good people, and then, tweak the settings so that it's not transmitting all of my shit out there, with respect to privacy and whatnot. So that's the big reason that I have returned to Threads and Instagram. I have not posted on Instagram yet. Probably will post this link for this on Instagram as well as Threads. But those are the big reasons. And also to, again, just to reconnect with the people that, I hadn't, seen over on Blue Sky, and also to, get back into the loop. Because it's really easy when you disconnect from a social media network to be out of the loop with respect to new stuff that is going on. And, you rely on other people, or you got to hunt and do your own searches like, hey, or, any of you guys emailing, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? Yeah, a lot of it, it's like, well, I did not hear about that shit. What the hell? Where did this come from? Right? That type of thing. So just to get a little bit more connected back into the world, but again, Twitter is persona non grata. Never going back there until it changes ownership at the very least. And it depends on who the new owner would be. Hey, you know what? The stock is dropping for other companies, so maybe that'll happen. I don't know. Hey, we can throw a prayer up there, if you will, whatever. But yeah, so that explains why I'm back on Threads and Instagram in that regard. I also want to talk a little bit about the other social media foray that I have made, and that is I have, for better or worse, become more active on Reddit. And I'll be honest, initially it was because of the whole news thing. Like, I noticed that, like going to different Reddit subs, it's like, okay, well, they're posting stuff and they've got like forums for DC, Marvel, superhero news and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, maybe that's a place to get like informed on links and news stories coming out without having to go to Twitter. Like, this is basically finding everywhere other than Twitter to go for news and whatnot, until like Blue Sky, like, improves some of their other features and whatnot. Because I do like the principle of Blue Sky, and I do like what Blue Sky, like, it represents and what they believe in, but it's not perfect. And they do have some work to do with respect to a number of features that the other sites have that they're still missing in that regard. But yeah, I had made a Reddit account over a year ago, and it was just collecting dust, doing nothing. I just made it for shits and giggles, just so that the FLITEcast had a Reddit account. But I hadn't done anything with it, and so I got more active with it within the last month or so. And I do want to regale a few things that I've learned, because I'm learning about this new landscape with respect to Reddit. I'm a Reddit rookie, seriously. But this whole downvoting and karma thing, there was a point where I was trying to post in the Detroit Lions Reddit, and it was like, oh, your karma's too low. You've got to get to a certain minimum to post. I'm like, really? Certain subs give you, like, you got to have a minimum to post? And I guess it's their way of trying to weed out trolls, if you will, right? Now, it's funny, I was talking to Phil the other day, which that's another reason I should mention that I'm glad I'm back on Threads and Instagram, so I can talk to guys like Phil and others that I haven't been able to discuss with. It was good chatting with Phil a little bit the other day. And I hadn't seen the whole tagline about Reddit being the front page of the internet. He was saying he thought that was really pretentious, and it is. It's very flippin' pretentious. But I missed that. I did not catch that at all with respect to it. But yeah, no, it's nothing less of it's no less of a cesspool than any of the rest of social media, to be honest with you. In fact, it's more, because this allows you to type essays and paragraphs like Facebook does. So it's like, oh, okay. And then the whole downvoting and upvoting thing, it's like, yeah, no, there's that whole system is just, that reeks of potential toxicity and, like manipulation and all that. It's like, okay, this is definitely imperfect, and there's definitely some bullshit here, but at least they allow blocking. At least you can block people. But there's also some weird censorship in that too, because, like, say you start a thread, and this kind of goes into what I wanted to reference here, because I joined a couple of different subs. I did this thing where, like, I joined the DC universe, the cinematic stuff, DC cinematic sub. I joined the Star Trek sub, and actually that was the first one where I got, like, posts removed and everything, because they didn't like some of the stuff that I was saying, because some of the old school Star Trek fans are, like, real butthurt if you tell them how toxic, how much of toxic assholes they're being with respect to Star Trek Discovery and anything on Paramount Plus. And so that's when the mods were like, da 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 da, and it was like, okay, whatever. And then the Superman sub, oh, I'm so done with the Superman sub, because I was in there and it's like, okay, let's all praise Christopher Reeve and trash Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder. Yeah, and then I'd went off and on a guy that was being toxic, and they suspended the both of us. I had an argument with the mods, and I said, yeah, I don't ever need to go back to your sub ever again. You can kiss my ass. And so I'm not going back to that sub ever again. But in the midst of all this, I joined I joined the Snyder Cut sub, and which has over 21,000 members, and I also joined a sub called OK Buddy Snyder Bro, something like that. And that is a group, that is a sub of little over 1,000 guys, a little over 1,000 men or women, whoever, uh, subscribers. And their whole point is they just want to shitpost everybody that's in the Snyder Cut group, like all the toxics and all that, right? And my whole point of joining both of them is because I wanted to see both sides of the bullshit, to be honest with you. And I wanted to be a voice of reason in both groups. That was a mistake. Or rather, not a mistake, just a waste of time. Because I learned pretty quickly within like the first week that that group, the Snyder Bro group, they were only interested in shit posting. And anytime you try to be rational with them and talk about, well, actually, this is what happened, and actually, this is the case with Snyder and everything, yeah, they didn't want to hear that. They didn't want they don't want reality. They want a circle jerk. They want just a community of shit posting and talking shit and not being serious. And it's like, okay, I get it. You want to be funny and you want to joke around here, but you're passing off misinformation, right? Because the whole thing, the thing that they've said for years about Snyder, about how he wanted Batman to get raped in prison and all that, and I pushed back against that and provided the actual interview where that quote comes from. What was this, 2019, for context, and they did not appreciate that at all, and that turned into them blocking me, or not blocking me, but like moderating my post and saying, hey, you were warned not to, attack members. I'm like, I'm not attacking members. I'm just speaking the truth. It's not my fault you guys are that immature and butthurt that you only allow shit posting. It's like, okay, you know what? I do not need to deal with any of you assholes anymore. So you're done. So that was over, right? And then a situation happened a couple of days ago in the Snyder Cut sub. Because, as I've said before, both extremes, they're just two sides of the same shit stain coin, right? There's the Snyder cult, and then there's the anti-Snyder cult. And both make us rational fans in the middle look bad, right? If you were a rational fan of DC or comic book movies that does not care for Zack Snyder's work, but you don't feel the need to shitpost on a regular basis because you're not a toxic asshole, then the anti-Snyder cult really does make you look bad, because they're the ones that consistently spout all of the stupid theories and all the disgusting shit, like I have it on authority that Zack Snyder hates his mother, and all the Lindsay Ellis, Ashley, what's her name, bullshit and whatever. Like, no, all of that nonsense that we dealt with on Twitter back in the day, and those people are still active on social media. That's what the anti-Snyder cult does, and they are toxic as hell, and no one should listen to them. And it's sad because they still have thousands of followers. They still have pretty big audiences that listen to their dreck and their bullshit, and it's unfortunate. It's ridiculous. The same can be said for the Snyder cultists making any Snyder fans look bad, because they're the ones that completely go off the deep end on the other side with respect to their irrational hatred. And what happened was, a day or so ago, one of the most toxic accounts in that group, probably the most toxic, it's an individual that goes by the name of F Gun, and I mean like spelled out, the F word gun, all one word, consistently posts toxic garbage and dreck, and quite honestly, some of the shit that account has posted on Twitter and other places should really put them, the person should be on a watch list, like somewhere. Like there's some really disgusting shit that this person has posted, but obviously their name being F Gun means that they have an irrational hatred of James Gunn, because they believe that he torpedoed and eliminated the Snyderverse when he was hired, which of course is factually incorrect. But what happened was, a couple of days ago, this account posts a rumor on 4chan about how the test screenings have gone so badly for Superman, right, coming out this July, that Warner Brothers is in complete damage control mode. And he's like, see, I told you James Gunn was going to ruin everything. He's horrible. He's a cancer. He's the Antichrist, da-da-da-da, right, all that shit. And so I posted in response, and I was one of the earlier responders to him, or whoever that account is. I said, you guys hated when we did this, or when this happened with Snyder, right? Remember when Justice League was considered unwatchable, right? And there were all these set reports like, oh, they hate this, and Warner Brothers wants changes to that, right? All this negative press that was coming out about the DCEU movies early on before any of us had seen anything. We hated that. We absolutely, we said, no, you need to give the movie a chance in the theaters before passing judgment on it. All the arguments that we made, now you're flipping the script and you're saying, oh, well, it doesn't matter for James Gunn. You're not extending the same courtesy to James Gunn. And that's the biggest problem that I have with Snyder Cultists. One of the biggest problems, other than their negative, nasty bullshit, is that they are not willing to extend the same wish for creative freedom to James Gunn that they wanted for Zack Snyder. And that's bullshit. That's hypocrisy. Because whether you like James Gunn's work or not, the creative freedom is non-negotiable. Like, you don't get to just say it's okay for Snyder to have freedom, but it's not okay for Gunn to have freedom. No, that's bullshit. Whether you like their work or not, you should want creative freedom across the board for these creatives. You should want them to give all of their passions and be able to have as much freedom as they can, because it's the studios that screw things up. It's the producers and the executives, the people in that boardroom, the bean counters, the people that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground with respect to anything creative, with writing, storytelling, visuals, whatever it is. It's those people that say, well, you've got to make this change, you've got to cut this down, we don't need this scene, right? The people that took the 30 minutes out of BVS Ultimate Edition and thought that was a good idea because they wanted more show times in the theater, those people, they're the problem. You should want creative freedom for someone like James Gunn, just like you wanted it for Zack Snyder. And if you're not consistent with that, it's hypocrisy. And so I called it out. I said, you were pissed off. You didn't like, none of us liked when this happened with Snyder, but now you're doing it to Gunn. That's not fair. And I posted the Harvey Dent meme, right? You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And within an hour, the mods removed that post for concern trolling, right? And their description of this is undermining the community with criticism masquerading as helpful advice. Something to that effect, right? And I was like, really? So you're so butthurt that I'm calling you out on your hypocrisy that you've decided to remove my post for concern trolling, my response to this toxic individual that seriously should be on a watch list somewhere. Like, the Fed should go to this person's house based on some of the other shit that he's posted on social media, but I'm the one that gets my stuff removed, right? So ironically, I find myself in the same position as a lot of the people that were in that OK Snyder Bro group, that particular circle jerk, that they had the same issues where they tried to post something in the Snyder Cut group and they got their stuff removed because they felt like they were sharing an honest opinion. A lot of them were probably lying. A lot of them were shit posting. But anybody that knows how I post, anybody that knows my position on it, you know exactly where I was coming from with respect to what I was saying, and you know that I don't like either of the cults, Snyder or anti-Snyder, in that regard. So, with respect to that, I sent them a message. I sent the mods a message, and I said, I don't agree with this decision. I'm not a troll, and I don't masquerade my feelings. I said, I've been in the muck with the Snyder fandom for 9 years. My blog and podcast literally exist because of it. I defend his work and his fans fiercely, but I don't do hypocrisy when it comes to other DC creatives. And to me, the account I responded to consistently floods this place with hypocrisy that would have gotten him banned long ago if he aimed it at Snyder, and I don't think that's fair. Because one of the rules of this group, one of the rules of Snyder Cut, is no negativity towards Zack Snyder or any of his projects, and no negativity towards any Zack Snyder fans, right? That's two of the rules in this. And I actually got some other people's posts, responded to some of the other stuff I posted about the first 4 movies of the DCEU making $3.1 billion and the rest of it making $4 billion, and the per movie average box office being cut in half after Justice League. Like, I got a lot of positive upvotes and whatnot on that post, but certainly there were others who disagreed and said, no, those movies were terrible, yada, yada, yada. And so I got their shit completely removed because I reported them because they were technically breaking the rule of the sub. And yeah, no one asked them for their opinion with respect to whether the movies were good or not. That was never my point in the post. But either way, so the irony here is that they removed my thing, calling them one of their most toxic guys out for concern trolling. And I said James Gunn deserves the same creative freedom and fairness that we wanted for Zack Snyder. Well, one of the mods responded to me And here's the lunacy that he said. I got to read this out loud. He said, quote, Gunn wrecked Snyder's superhero universe and fired his beloved cast members. That's on topic. You're in the wrong place if you're looking for the James Gunn fan club here. That's like going on a Star Wars prequel sub and complaining when people criticize the sequels for ruining the franchise, or a Tim Burton Batman sub and expecting not to see negative comments about Schumacher's films. Okay, so many things wrong with that. Because first of all, you're that bitch made that you would go and you got to complain, you got to criticize the sequels on you're on a prequel sub, so that just means you're allowed to shit post the sequels? No, it means you're an asshole. If you're shit posting anything, you're an asshole. Plain and simple. Hey, I am done with this whole, well, we've got to respect opinion. No, I don't. I don't need to respect you being an asshole, and I will not in that regard. So his examples, going on a Star Wars prequel sub and complaining when people criticize the sequels for ruining the franchise, you're an asshole for saying that they ruined the franchise. You are. And I hope that everybody that grew up with the sequel trilogy comes for your ass, because they will. Just like the prequel people came for the original trilogy people's ass, like me, when we were criticizing the prequels in that regard. That was really the day that I stopped criticizing the prequels and became more open-minded about Star Wars in that regard. I was younger then. I aged and I matured in that regard, right? And as far as going on a Tim Burton Batman sub, why are you posting negative comments about the Schumacher films on a Burton? You can't celebrate the Burton Batman films. You've got to be a shitbag with respect to the Schumacher films in that sub. So this guy wants permission to be an asshole, right? But I didn't even attack him. I didn't even respond with respect to that last part of it. I came back to debunk what he said in the first paragraph. And I said, that's factually incorrect. Gunn didn't fire anyone. The Rock and $7 used Black Adam to bring back Cavill so that he could manipulate you and Snyder fans into taking his side. But when Black Adam failed at the box office, he lost the battle for DC Studios to Gunn, and Gunn already had a plan he wanted to trust himself on. It's the same creative freedom we wanted Zack Snyder to have in the first place. I said, I'm not interested in a James Gunn fan club, but if you can't be rational about this and see how Gunn deserves the same creative freedom that Snyder deserved, then I have no interest in this place whatsoever. I'm a Zack Snyder fan and a DC fan. I don't root for DC's failure just because I blame the wrong person for what happened to his universe. FYI, I added, The Rock was never going to restore the Snyderverse. He was going to give us a bunch of Black Adam versus Superman movies with no plan or structure whatsoever. I know that's not what you want, and it's not what I want. I've been part of this movement for 9 years now. I know a lot of the people in Zack circles that he's spoken to and moderated SnyderCon. I didn't, they did. I'm the last person you'd want to kick out of this place, but you leave me no choice. Take it easy. And so this guy just came back with all manner of vitriol. You have no idea what you're talking about, he says. First of all, The Rock did more for DC films than anyone else in the last 5 years. He got Henry Cavill back on screen, which gave hope to people that DC films would return to their former glory. The day Gunn forced Cavill out was the day he stuck a dagger into the heart of the DCEU, which was a big reason why all the 2023 DCU films bombed. No, it's not, but whatever. Let's continue down this road of lunacy. He says, The Rock shouldn't be condemned for anything other than making a bad movie, which Gunn is no stranger to himself. But Black Adam at least got, at the time, the highest gross of anything in the DCEU since Aquaman, so he was obviously going in a better direction than Gunn has been. Secondly, Black Adam had nothing to do with the Snyderverse or Snyder's future in DC. No reporter or trade publication has ever claimed that. Man of Steel 2 was in the works until the day Gunn took over with Safran, when he instantly canceled it and fired Cavill. Gunn and Safran are the one and only reason Cavill is not coming back. If not for The Rock, Cavill's streak of not being in DC movies would have remained unbroken since 2017. Okay. Lastly, he says, Gunn lost his right to any creative freedom the day he and Safran fired Cavill. It is one of the worst decisions in the history of any modern film franchise. He is incompetent and unsuited for the job. And that's in addition to his mega flop, The Suicide Squad, and his disrespectful comments about the superhero genre to Vulture in 2022. He should be fired before he does any more damage to DC. So far, he's driven the brand further and further into the ditch, even worse than Hamada did. Okay. So, as you can tell, this person is certifiable. This person is a baby. This person deserves to be bitch slapped. This person needs a bottle and a corner to go sit in with a dunce cap. Seriously, this person deserves to be Cersei Lannister shamed, Game of Thrones style. This, and I, not that I would ever wish to see that, but this person is absolute dreck. The lunacy, the absolute. The, I really hope that this person is a bot. That this person just is, or that they're trolling, that they're pretending. If this person actually believes any of the bullshit that they type to me, then that person needs mental health help more than any of us in that regard. This is why the cult is awful, right? So I saw both cults, I saw the worst part of both cults within like a week. And of course, I hear more nonsense and I hear more delusional bullshit from the Snyder cult than I do necessarily from the anti-Snyder cult in that regard, because they were just, one word answers, whatever. Yeah, they didn't have time to type paragraphs. This asshole typed an essay, blah 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 blah, and tells me that I have no idea what I'm talking about. Oh my god. Oh, the Rock was the savior. Then so much wrong with this. Here. Okay, just briefly, bullet points. Gunn didn't force Cavill out. Gunn won the battle for DC Studios because Black Adam bombed. Black Adam did not do well. Zaslav picked Gunn and Safran. Gunn already had a plan. The idea that Gunn was supposed to stick to a plan that wasn't his when he got hired, asinine and completely illogical, and not what anyone would have wanted if Zack Snyder was in the same situation, period. So hypocrisy there. The idea that that's why all of the 2023 DCEU films bombed. No, it's not. As I've mentioned before, for those of you who have listened to me for the last number of years, 9 superhero movies were released in 2023, and the only ones that anybody saw were Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. All the rest of them, including Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, including the Marvels, and certainly The Flash, Blue Beetle, and Shazam 2 Fury of the Gods, bombed. Every last one of them bombed badly. And it had shit to do with Henry Cavill being forced out of the DCU. Had nothing to do with that. Had everything to do with lack of hype, bad marketing, and all manner of just, it was the swan song. It was the end of it, and there were too many choices for the general audience, and they chose 3 out of the 9 movies that year to go see. They don't have the income, they don't have the time, they don't have the energy to see all those movies in one year. It was massively oversaturated as far as actual amount of content, as actual quantity of superhero movies to see in 2023. That's why they all bombed. Dumbass. But this, and then this Black Adam at least got at the time the highest gross movie. Okay, so I'm sorry. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Did you forget that that was a day and date release in 2021? That it was simultaneously released on HBO Max at the time as well as theatrical, because we were still at a point where a year after 2020, not every movie theater in the country was at full capacity. I was one of the people that stayed home and watched it on HBO Max because I didn't want to risk going into a movie theater if I didn't have to. And that particular year, right, I was still masking up fully in that regard, truthfully. And if I had an opportunity to not be around COVID coffers, I was going to take that opportunity. So the idea that you're going to hold the box office, you're going to hold James Gunn's feet to the fire for the box office of that movie, beyond asinine. You're not thinking clearly. You're an idiot. You're an absolute moron. Whoever this mod is that responded to me, dangerous person. Person that needs mental help. If they are in fact believing any of what they posted to me. No context whatsoever. Ridiculous. And who gives a shit about Cavill's streak? Are you kidding me? Ugh, just whatever. You want to believe whatever you're going to believe, and this whole thing, one of the worst decisions in the history of any modern franchise, incompetent and unsuited for the job. Okay. All right. This is why people hate Snyder fans, because they equate us with morons like this. They equate us with bottom feeders like this. None of you listening to my show believe any of what this asshole just said. Do you? I don't think you do. And it's just, it's lunacy. It's absolute lunacy, and it's ludicrous. And so my response to him was, because he had also called me out for having a really short comment history for someone that had been involved and a Snyder fan for as long as I had been. So my response to him was, I'm new to Reddit. I have nothing to prove to you. The people in the movement who know me, the rational ones that actually know Zach and Debbie, know who I am. Which is true, they do know who I am. You are not one of them, I said, and as long as you keep believing the lies you just told me, you never will be. Have a nice day. And I, let that go. The guy temporarily muted me from Snyder Cut. I won't be able to message him or the other moderators for 28 days, which is fine, whatever. Screw them. I don't need them or the anti-Snyder cult. So that experiment, gone. And I haven't ditched Reddit because, quite honestly, I have found some rational conversation, some very reasonable conversation on the DC Cinematic sub and also on the Marvel sub, right? And it's, some of the stuff I've been talking about lately where I've been defending the Marvel Cinematic Universe from its own fans has been in the Marvel sub, but I found people that have agreed with me, and I found people that, see where I'm coming from, and I can have more rational discussions there. But those two circle jerk groups, anti-Snyder cult and Snyder cult, yeah, no, they're both horrible. And is that something that I should have known from the beginning? Sure. But I tested it. I gave them enough rope to see if they would hang themselves, and they both did. They both hung themselves, and they can both kick rocks and pound the biggest pile of sand in their mother's basement till the cows come home. Seriously. It is what it is. So, yep, I have kind of gone the full gamut with respect to social media outside of the Nazi hellscape, and it's been intriguing. Not surprising at all to encounter these people, but it is what it is. And so there you have it. That's my story with respect to the FLITEcast returning to Threads and also being on Reddit as well. Threads, Instagram, and Reddit I have presences on with respect to social media going forward, and also BLUESKY in particular. And as I finish my New Holland Tangerine Space Machine Hazy IPA, I think that will do it for this particular episode of Friday Flight, because in about 18 minutes, if I don't get this posted, it's not going to be Friday where I live, and I really want that to be the case. So I'm going to hurry up and sign off here. Thank you so much for listening to this show. Thank you so much for, enduring my rants and my raves, if you will, with respect to stuff like this. If you have any thoughts that you want to share with respect to anything that I talked about with this particular show, you know where to find me on BLUESKY at FLITEcast. And now you can also find me again on Threads at the FLITEcast and on Instagram at the FLITEcast, as well as the FLITEcast Facebook page. And as always, I can be reached by email at ray@theflightcast.com. All right, take care, stay safe out there, and I will see you all next time. Take it easy.